BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hi there everyone, I'm Martin Tyler. Peter Crouch has asked me to warn you that the following podcast contains some strong language and adult themes. I'll be back later with a question for the great man, but remember, because it's a podcast, it's not live!
Crouchy P on the MIC. We're doing this just for free.
Do you give it the sniff test?
Peter, come do the quiz.
Feel a little bit like Dirty Dan.
You and your two silly little mates.
Silly little mates, just wrap it up.
Is it weird doing one of these whilst wearing clothes?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be cruising at 2,400 feet.
Let's free the ketchup.
So much to get off my chest.
And you've always had magnificent teeth.
How bad have things got?
It's going downhill now, isn't it?
The nation will be back stronger. Hello and welcome to That Peter Crouch podcast. I'm Peter Crouch. Tom Fordyce and Chris Stark here with me as usual. You right, boys?
Yeah, all good. Chris, you good?
Boys, I'll tell you what's happened is just before we did the podcast, my internet went down. It's just how it is at home, isn't it?
It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you have a situation where something breaks and you've got no idea what to do about it. Like we've got a situation at the moment. My car has done, I think it's done 1 million miles now. And things have gradually been going wrong with it that I was putting up with. So the central locking went, which was a bit of a pain, but you can still get in. The latest thing is the passenger door. It just won't open. It's permanently shut.
Do you know, you won't believe this one, but me and Jono live quite far away from Stoke by the end, me and Glenn Johnson, and we were travelling in together. He had a car that he's had for 15 years, I swear. He just ran it into the ground. The driver's passenger side door, you had to hold shut. So I was holding that shut. We used to call it the lowrider because this thing was the lowest thing to the floor you have ever seen. I've never seen a car lower than this. I don't think anyone's ever left a Premier League training ground whilst holding the passenger side door in.
You just don't see that, do you? You don't see it.
You don't see it.
No, when you see the players leaving the training ground, you see the photos, they're generally looking quite serious going in and out. What you don't see is their hand holding onto the door. It's a mad one.
Could you style it in summertime? Could you wind the window down and just like appear to be resting an elbow on the sill, but actually be squeezing it in?
Just that casual one, when you just let the arm out, but I'm actually fully holding it
dangling a finger.
How good was it to hear Martin Tyler doing the swear warning at the start of the podcast today?
He's really coined a phrase there, hasn't he? And it's live.
Can you give me a burst of his most famous moment?
Aguero!
What is the greatest line of commentary there's ever been in football, do we think?
66 is the one, isn't it? Surely. There's people on the pitch. They think it's all over. And then and what a line that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I love the story about what Jeff Hurst was trying to do as well. He wasn't bothered about shooting. He was just trying to welly the shit out of it so that it took them ages to get the ball back. That's 20 seconds we're home and home. He's banged it in the top corner. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What's been the greatest bit of commentary you've heard around yourself, Crouchy? Have any famous lines happened about you?
I think my favourite was the commentary on the goal I scored for Stoke against Man City. There's like astonishment in the commentator's voice. It is a nice feeling. Something you've done can get 50,000 people on their feet and give them all like a good feeling. Do you know what I mean? Just by something you've done just in that split second.
And they decorate your goals, don't they, Crouchy? So you could score a great goal, but if someone comes out with an absolute perler of a line, it's like putting a beautiful frame around a photo. It just sets it off.
Do you know what also I found? I was showing the kids, I was boring the kids to death with my 100 goals. There was a couple of goals in there that sort of killed it for me a bit because the commentary killed it. Crouch there with a great finish, been through a bit of a drought recently, but and you go, for fuck's sake, that's my 100 goal club, don't need that. No one knows about the drought.
Well, we can solve that for you, but
let's
let's do that. Let's get all Crouch's 100 goals re-commentated.
Look at this handsome devil here ghosting in at the far post. He's bagged 30 this season, something like that. And then I can show the kids. When I show the grandkids, they won't know. They'll go, "Did you get 30 that year, Granddad?" And I'll go, "Yeah, that was a good year, that one. That was a good year, that one."
Well, I think we should choose one. Let's choose one goal for people to do their own commentary over the top of. So that goal against Man City is an absolute beauty, and it's easy to find on YouTube. Have a crack at that one. See how you get on.
don't suck up here. Like, I know that's what Crouchy wants. A bit of creativity. Don't feel afraid, because we'll select a wide range for us to kind of analyse, I reckon. It can't all just be a Crouchy love fest, this, can it?
So what would you do, Chris, if you were watching that now?
Do you know
Would
what?
you give it the Aguero with a crouch?
It doesn't really work with Crouch, does it?
No,
Crouch!
it doesn't really.
It's not the same.
Do you know what would be good as well? Like a real scrappy goal, like one of the scrappiest that I've scored. If you can make that sound good, you know, like pick one of the absolute shockers out where I've just bundled it in or handballed it or something like that.
Now, boys, this series we promised to put Crouchy under pressure with listener questions. We've not really done that so far because, Crouchy, you've been so busy fangirling over Louis Theroux and Sean Dyche. I know you were on your best behaviour with him, being your gaffer and all. So here's what I'm thinking. I think we need to make up for that with this episode. We just need to pile in with the questions, as many questions as we can get through. Crouchy, what's the email address?
peter.crouch@bbc.co.uk.
Yeah.
How are we getting on with Britain's youngest Ian? You got any info for me?
Yeah, because last week we had Ian Scott, didn't we, who was from Anglesey and was 22. Chris, I believe you've got an improvement on that?
Yes, I have, yes. So the benchmark so far was a 22-year-old Ian. I've managed to track down 18-year-old Ian Reynolds from Bedford. Yes, that's right, 18 years old. He's a Watford fan. Favourite player is Etienne Capoue. And his friend's parents sometimes got concerned that he was actually a 50-year-old bloke when his group of mates were playing Xbox together just because his name was Ian. It's true, if you walk into the room and see that your child is playing against someone called Ian, you do just want to keep an eye over their shoulder. And that's,
the alarm bells going off.
And that, you know, I don't mean that to be in any way as derogatory as it sounds, but you know how it is.
Did you see the one we got tweeted, boys? This was from Chris Morn. My daughter is 4 and there's an Ian in her swimming class. He's always messing about. When I give my wife an update of the lesson, Ian the bastard gets a lot of stick.
We're trying to find Britain's youngest Ian. So there's reports here, Tom, that you're saying that there's this 4 or 5-year-old. They are unverified. We've got this 18-year-old that we know is definitely an Ian, Ian Reynolds.
So he has to be our current leading young Ian, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
In lieu of verification about Ian the bastard.
I guess the natural chat is, should we get a load of them together at some point for some sort of, God knows what you'd call it.
Of Ian's?
I don't know.
Ian Fest.
Ian, yeah, an Ian Fest.
Is that just the performers are Ian, or do you have to be called Ian to attend the festival?
It's strictly for Ians only. So if your name's Ian, you can perform or attend.
Why don't we do a podcast where it's just Ian only? If your name's not Ian, you're not coming in, sort of thing.
Who would we have then? So we could have Ian Botham.
Right.
Dowie. Ian Dowie's
got 2 eyes.
Yes, that doesn't... Oh, God, not that again. So that won't count.
Ian Brown.
Ian Brown, yes.
Ian McCulloch of Echo and the Bunnymen. So that's the music sorted. We got the lead singers of the Stone Roses and Echo and the Bunnymen.
Sir Ian McKellen.
Yeah, well, something to think about, lads. Let's think about getting some Ians together on one of these podcasts. We'll do a little Ian Fest.
I suppose the key question is whether any newborns are going to be called Ian.
Yeah, well, listen, you never know. Like, things happen on this podcast that I never think could possibly happen. You know, like we mentioned things and they seem to get bigger and bigger. And you know, I mean, that whole Parched episode was madness, wasn't it? The Iniesta thing took off. We messed around with a festival and ended up with what could only be described as the festival of the year. So.
So what you're saying is we might actually, rather than just having 1 or 2 Ians, we might end up with a glut of Ians, a glut of baby Ians in the year 2020.
Who knows? I mean, don't rule Bango out. Don't rule Bango coming to the forefront of British names. I mean, and then we could say Chris Stark started the Bango movement.
I've got news on this.
Have you had any Bangos, Chris?
Yeah, I've got some news on this. We have been contacted by a Bango Manuel from Angola. And we have done a little bit of research, and it does appear that he is real, which is amazing. Like, surely this guy is now a rock star in our eyes. Legitimate Bango Manuel. He's messaged in. So yeah, it does seem to be a name.
We asked you to make up a name. You made up that name, and there are none in the UK and Ireland that we know of. But you telling me we've had an email from Angola. right? So there's a listener in Angola who's gone,
Right.
They're talking about me. Bango Manuel has emailed in, and he's our man.
It's amazing because it either means Bango Manuel is subscribed to this podcast, right? And never would have expected.
Can you imagine, mate? He's had a shout out from absolutely nowhere. We're all in our homes, locked down in the UK, right? I've asked you to come up with a name, and he's gone, oh, that's me.
That's my name.
That's me. Is that, and I love to imagine that's the case, or his mate has been listening to the podcast and gone like, I know Bango. Bango's a good lad. And he's gone and got Bango to now email in.
Bango might have been having a quiet night in, and then suddenly, like, his phone lights up, and he's getting text message after text message, people banging on his door. Bango, you've just been on the Crouchy pod.
Good. Is there one Bango in the world then that we know, like one legitimate Bango?
Do you know what's tickling me? If we if we get Crouch Fest 2 on, right? My visions are right. Bango Manuel turns up and he comes out. Do you know that tune that goes bing 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 bang bango.
You hear the whole crowd going.
Can you imagine the O2's roof? The O2's roof.
There's going to be pints going everywhere.
Bang 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 bango.
Be wonderful. If we were to do a Crouch Fest again, if we were to do something like that, we're going to throw a massive party in your honour. All we need is, I don't know, maybe you to walk out and wave. It could be awesome.
100%, yeah.
Boys, I did promise everyone listening to this that we would do more listener messages on this podcast, more questions.
Yeah.
And we've ended up just going on again.
Yeah, boys, we've had a message either from Jacob or Jakob. Not sure.
What do you mean you're not sure? Well, it's probably Jacob. Why are you pronouncing Jacob weird?
Because it's Jakob.
Oh.
And then he says his opening line is, I am from Sweden.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
That's a Jakob, that.
He says, I am from Sweden. I read an article about you, Crouchy, when you were at Hasselholm, aged 19. This is when you were on loan, wasn't it? A former teammate claims you drank more beer than water during your time at the club. He even said you could drink more beer than anyone in southern Sweden. Is there any truth to this?
Of course there is. It's well expensive in Sweden. Crouch is the only one that can afford it. It's like 15 quid a pint there.
I couldn't then, mate. I was only a young player trying to make my name in the game. I had no money whatsoever. No, I did drink a lot there, though.
Good times?
I went to Sweden on loan. It was an amazing thing, but they were part-time. So I was used to full-time, and we would train. We'd train most days, like every day, really, but we'd train at like 4:30 in the afternoon. It was a really sleepy town, and there was a couple of restaurants and one pub, English pub called the Red Lion. So yeah, I was with Alton Thelwell, who's a player who's at Tottenham at the time with me, and most nights we used to pop down and have a couple of beers in the Red Lion. And I sort of developed a little name for myself down there as the English lout that came over and drank a lot. But that's part of our culture, isn't it?
So I didn't realise it. So for you, was it like? Did you have another job on as well?
No, I wasn't working. No. I was contracted to Tottenham, so Tottenham were paying me, but they went out there. They took us out there for experience, but these were part time. So yeah, it was a great experience. The football was great. Can you imagine being? I think I was 18 and going to Sweden for 3 months.
Wow.
They gave us a car.
Telling your mates that.
They gave us a car, they gave us a flat. It was just so much fun. I mean,
Hold on. I've never fully understood this story. So you're 18 years old, right? Out in Sweden. You're with a part-time football club, right? So it means that you've got like plenty of time on your hands to be able to go and enjoy. Single at that point, I'm imagining.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Wow.
You know, what killed me was Alton got himself a Swedish girlfriend, bizarrely, after about 2 months in.
He's left you on your own.
Shocking behaviour. And anyway, I ended up venturing out with some Swedish friends. Hilarious.
18 years old for me, I did my first trip to Malia. 18-year-old Crouchy is being paid full-time to be in Sweden.
in the summer.
In the summer, like just, it's like what? This a madness.
It was unbelievable, mate. I swear to you, it was so much fun.
Have you got any Swedish in the locker still?
It's all swear words. Yeah, I had a little bit. I got introduced to
Give us a little blast.
Helvete.
That was lovely in
bad's that?
Swedish, isn't it? That's the thing.
On a scale of 1 to 10, like how rude have you just been?
It's just, I think that means shit.
5.
And then fan for fun. That's all they used to say. That was like fuck, basically.
Did you have a nickname in Sweden?
Probably, but not one that I can remember. Do you know what? I got into there was this mad tune. I'm trying to think of it now. I'm gonna get it up. I've got to get this now. So klart. So klart.
He loves it.
Chris, do you think this podcast was going to end with us staring at Crouchy on Zoom, singing a Swedish rap from 22 years ago?
Petter's the man.
Petter?
He looks angry.
Petter Crouch.
He was the man out there at the time.
We need to get some of them on. We need to get hold of some of these Swedes that.
So we'll get Bango from Angola, and then we need some people from Sweden. I'm wondering if they, sometimes you just at that age you just exaggerate things. Like, did you make a big play of the fact that you were from London, even though people who live in London would go, mate, you're from Ealing? You're like, yeah, I'm from London.
I can't remember. I don't think I did really. No, I don't think I was a twat really at that age. Everyone spoke English. Obviously, they were all great with us. Connie Olsen, I think, was my manager. He was a bit like Klopp.
Ah, Chris, this feels like it should be like an origin series on Netflix.
I love it. I love it so much.
So,
it's just the fact
we all know
18.
what happened with Crouchy, but this is the origin series.
Yeah,
a young man who has never played first team football goes to Sweden for the summer and gets paid to play football.
Just mad. I'm so jealous. What? You said your mate, he got a girlfriend. Did you get a girlfriend out there, Crouchy, or did you were you working too hard?
I was mainly concentrating on football, so I just didn't have time for it.
Very good. All right then.
This is why I like Crouchy so much, though, because.
Now,
But this is why Crouchy's so likeable, because like most 18-year-old footballers would go to Sweden and fill their boots.
I found myself grafting constantly, on a regular basis. But I suppose in some ways, it was just a regular 18-year-old, usually going home and wanking.
Crouchy's done the robot again because it's 100 Premier League goals for Peter Crouch.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Okay, let's do another email. This one's from Emma. If every team had to swap their goalkeepers with their centre forward, which team would win the league?
Ooh. So it's like swapping Alisson and Firmino or Salah.
But I'm thinking here, right? If Edison played up front and Aguero went in nets, and you kept the same City team, I feel like that's the team. I feel like Edison is a player, and I feel like he could play up front.
Because I think Aguero would be rubbish in goal. Like he's not big,
Yeah, no, I get that, but I feel like City's team's that good.
They're protecting.
They wouldn't need him much. Yeah, I think you're right actually, because the keeper's probably more important than the actual forward. I'm just thinking Edison would be the best forward out of the keepers.
Who's more likely to thrive? A goalkeeper as a striker or a striker as a goalkeeper?
Well, no, see, I'm going to stick up for the strikers, but I just feel like anyone can catch a ball. I've just thrown.
Whoa.
No, I was throwing my little girl who's 9 a ball today, and she can catch it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you threw it at her.
Yeah,
right.
But it's in a radius. It's in hand distance. Do you know what I mean? Like the goal is not that big, whereas a goal is not that big for the striker as well. To score a goal is the most difficult thing. There's a reason why strikers get paid the most.
My counter argument would be whenever you see outfield players in goal, it looks so
right.
weird.
Yeah, it doesn't look right. But having said that, right, Troy Deeney could go in goal and do a job, whereas Ben Foster got up front and it would look ridiculous.
Shouldn't it be a case that the striker would actually make the best goalkeeper because they understand better than anyone else what the other striker is trying to do?
Well, that's the whole argument for self-pleasure, isn't it? It's, you should be able to know what Actually, I'm not going to go down this avenue. Oh, God.
Right, Crouchy, if every team had to swap their goalkeeper with their centre forward, which team wins the league?
But then I start looking
Yeah.
at Tim Krul in a different way, you know? Like, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
really?
does. And also, you're saying win the league. Like, that team is not going to win the league anyway.
Should we change Emma's question to, if every team had to swap their goalkeeper with their centre forward, who does best?
It's a difficult one.
It's mad strikers that sort of look like decent goalkeepers. Like, for me, Giroud, I can imagine being an amazing goalkeeper.
Rooney used to go and goal in training, and he was decent. Charlie Adam, parched, fantastic goalkeeper. Used to get the gloves on in the dressing room and like practice with Butland, and he had good hands. You know,
I don't think we've really got an answer for Emma.
There's no answer, Emma. Do you know what? We've talked about your question for ages, and I'm going to refrain from answering it. Thanks
when
anyway.
Rooney was in goal, you don't have long training for an international game. So why is he pissing around in goal?
We'd have a little mess around at the end, and like Lamps would take penalties, practice penalties, and like Becks would take free kicks, and the keepers are done. They're like, "No, we've worked hard enough. We're going in." But Becks is going, "I want to take free kicks," or Lamps is going, "I need to practice pen." So Rooney would just go in goal, and he was decent.
Would that not negate in some way the free kick practice itself? Because let's say Frank Lampard is practicing against Wayne Rooney. Even if Wayne Rooney is decent for Wayne Rooney in goal, he's not replicating the standard of goalkeeper that is coming up against an international match. So he could find himself thinking,
just put
I'm on
third
fire
choice
here.
on. Going along with what Tom's saying there, as a striker, like, I know it's good fun taking them against Wayne Rooney because, well, I can only imagine what that's like. But surely, given that you're an international team, they've got some kind of decent goalkeeper that isn't first, second, or third choice, but can be in goal to at least challenge you. Because what saddens me slightly is the idea of our international strikers practicing against a goalkeeper that is like you or Wayne.
Do you know, you always hear these stories about people like Frank Lampard and David Beckham, Crouchy, and people say with admiration, think about Frank Lampard. We'd go in for lunch, he'd stay out there and he wouldn't come back in until he'd scored 10 penalties in a row. And you're like, yeah, well, he's only facing Wayne Rooney. That's a piece of piss.
No, you've got this wrong. This is the extra after the extras. Do you know what I mean? So you train, you do finishing practice or do what you need to do against the keepers, obviously. And then everyone would sort of filter out, have a chat, go back on the bus. Training's finished. And then now you can sort of enjoy yourself, let loose. Wayne Rooney's messing about in goal. Becks is taking free kicks against him. They're still practicing, but, you never have to grow up as a footballer. It doesn't matter if you play for England or you play for Man United, you play for Liverpool, Real Madrid. If you were in the park, your mate would go in goal, you'd take a pen against him, 5 pens, he'd come out, you'd go in goal. It's the same.
When you've got Becks taking free kicks, right, and someone's got to go in goal for him to train, do you just have guys knocking about that are sort of forced to go in? It's like sparring almost.
Everyone knows how good David Beckham is at free kicks, right? I remember just sitting there, right? At the ball, I was sitting on a ball. First time I saw Becks taking free kicks in training. And I went, oh, this will be good. I'll go and watch David Beckham taking free kicks. And I went down there and just, I can't even tell you how good it is. It's literally, it's better than you even imagine seeing it. No one's got a technique like that. And no one has before, and no one has since, It's like he stands on the outside of his left foot and just the up and down with power in the left-hand corner of the wall. You see nothing like it. I mean, 10 out of 10 are on target, and you put a top goalkeeper in there, I'm saying 7 out of 10 are in the net. The keeper might save one. He even knows where he's going. And sometimes he used to do the one where where he's going. He's going over the wall, top left, because that's the one he's practicing. But then you could see the keeper like Joe Hart or a Ben, someone gambling across, and he'd sort of look in that corner where he was going to whip it and go the other side, and so he's not even looking in that corner and just whip it in the other corner. Honestly, it was a privilege to see a sort of master craftsman, and you forget sort of how good David Beckham was as a player because of what he is now. People see him as a celebrity or whatever, but
I love the idea of you sat on a ball there watching it.
Yeah, that's the truth, honestly, mate. I always remember the first day watching it, and then you sort of almost get used to it. But
Yeah.
you don't really, but you see it every day and you go, fuck me. Like the first day you go, oh, and everyone, like people are walking in, not watching. You go like, what are you doing? It's like seeing the Beatles and then just going, oh yeah, I've seen these and walking off. It's like, it's outrageous. But I think you only get that. It only comes round, doesn't come round often. Someone who can do something that even professionals need to watch. He just had a skill that no one else had. Like no one ever. I mean, he's the best free kick taker possibly of all time. And that was literally what I saw on a day-to-day basis when I played for England and watched David Beckham taking free kicks. It was genius.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Hi again, everyone. Martin Tyler back with you. Now, I've commentated on so many of your great headed goals, Crouchy. So my question is this. Your life depends on it, and you have just one chance against a top goalkeeper to score with a header from around the penalty spot. You can choose any of the great crossers you have played with. Who will it be? Who will put it on the money for you so you can save yourself with a goal?
I played with some great wingers, some great fullbacks. Glenn Johnson used to set me up for a load down at Portsmouth. But David Beckham could literally put the ball on a sixpence from anywhere. And delivery-wise, no one better that I've ever seen in the game.
Yeah, I did think after all those tales from England training that you'd pick Beckham. But what about someone who's playing now? The quality of football is so good these days. There's got to be someone out there who could push him, isn't there?
When I watch games now and I look at two players, Kevin De Bruyne and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I think those two, the delivery, I don't think we've ever seen a better passer of the ball in the Premier League. I talk about David Beckham and his delivery is exceptional and his range of passing was unbelievable. But Kevin De Bruyne has just taken things to a new level now. And I think repertoire-wise, I think Kevin De Bruyne might even surpass him. It just seems to be the weight of pass. And I think it's the cutting through. It comes from a more central area. And I think there's more range to it. And I think David Beckham could have done that. But I think majority of his games were from the right-hand side. And obviously I'm putting Becks as the best I've ever seen pass the ball. But I think if you play day in, day out with Kevin De Bruyne, I think you'd see things that you've never seen before. And I think, literally, I watched him play against us for Stoke and he absolutely destroyed us with just his weight of pass. It was just unbelievable. And then I look at Trent, I would give my left arm to play with a player like that, who just gets the ball out of his feet and whips it on a sixpence in similar ways to David Beckham from deep. But he's also got that range of passing as well. And it is Beckham-esque. It's unbelievable.
De Bruyne, like when you talk about his range of passing, he always puts a bit of backspin on it sometimes, doesn't he? It's like he's got a ball on a bungee cord and he can just put it exactly where he wants and then just tug it back so it falls directly in the path of the striker. It's unbelievable.
I think what you're looking at with a fantastic passer of the ball, and I've played with loads, to be honest. I mean, Xabi Alonso is another absolute majestic passer of football. The weight of pass is that good that the forward rarely breaks stride and rarely needs a touch. And it's passed with such ferocity from such range. And quite often it's along the floor, it's not aerially. It's a way of playing the game that I've never seen before. And I think something that is a gift to be enjoyed.
So when you played against him at Stoke, was he having a particularly good game?
I was on the bench at the time, and the majority of the game, I was just thinking to myself, please don't put me on, because it was a mauling. I think they beat us might have been 6-1 or 6-2 or something, and he was involved in 5 of the goals, possibly all of them. I felt like when he came off, obviously all 4 corners of the ground were applauding him, even the Stoke fans, and I felt like getting up myself and applauding it, and I've never thought that about, I don't think, any player, but that performance that day, really, it was a genius at work. And I remember Mark Hughes speaking to Guardiola after the game, and he said the 2 hardest working players in the City team are Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva. And he said, when those 2 players run the most, then what excuse have the others got to not do that?
I remember getting a text from you on the Saturday night going, well, that went well.
Honestly, it was an absolute schooling day. City are in the mood, and Darrow's another one. I've seen now he's on course for 6 consecutive, getting 20 goals in the Premier League.
Is he still there?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to work out if this is my signal or him. I suspect it's him now. This is the thing. He went and got that Chinese internet, and I thought that was meant to,
He was all over it at the start. He gave a lot of chat about the Chinese internet.
Yeah, Crouchy's gone. Brilliant. Batch has appeared on the podcast before.
With his rats.
If you've not heard of Batch, Batch is the guy sort of in charge of all the tech of all this. Batch, can you speak to us?
Yeah, hello.
Can you explain what the latest technical problem is with Crouchy from your point of view?
He has many. I think his mic is beginning to give up and slowly die. It was sounding a bit hissy earlier before we started, and we thought, I will give it a go, but...
You've had to remotely hack into his laptop a few times, haven't you? Have you found anything normal in there? Is it? Or?
No, I haven't. I was going to put a picture of Rat Letizier as his desktop.
Ah,
but...
nice.
All right, Batch. I think at this point, what we should do is get you to just maybe call Crouchy, figure this out. We'll come back, well, arguably stronger in a minute. Yeah.
Crouch going for the spectacular. Oh, what a goal from Peter Crouch!
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Hi lads, I'm back. Yeah, I do have a few technical issues this end, mainly down to me.
What's happened?
Well, I didn't mention it beforehand, but when I found a microphone in my daughter's pram in the playroom.
Hang on. What? You found your expensive BBC microphone with your own face on the little baffle at the top in the pram?
I found it was in the pram, disconnected in the playroom. So I imagine it's been knocked about a little bit.
Does it rattle?
Right.
If you shake it, does it make a rattling sound?
Yeah.
So here's what's happened. Your quite expensive BBC microphone has been used as a toy for one of the Crouch children, right?
This is the perils of working from home. You know, in the pub, this doesn't happen, does it?
No.
All I could do is apologise. What I will say is I could hear you when I was gone there, and I knew Batch was leafing through trying to find photos of Abby.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My iPad's upside down. That's because it's been looking so hard.
I mean, what mic are you using at the moment? Is this from a different company?
Yes, Batch has hacked into the BT Sport microphone system.
Go on, Batch. Let's have it.
That man's an absolute miracle worker. What's he done?
Well done, Batch.
This is great news because we did promise we were going to do loads of messages from listeners. It sounds like we're not going to be able to do many, but we can maybe squeeze in one, can't we, boys?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, we've had one from Mark. Mark says, there's been loads of recent celebrity creations of alcoholic drinks. Kylie Minogue's rosé, tequila from The Rock, Beckham's loving that whiskey, and Ryan Reynolds got his gin. So I wondered what alcohol brand Crouchy would create.
Oh, that's a tough one. I drink various bits and pieces. You know, I like the lagers at home. I was on a nice bottle of red.
Don't you think there's a drink out there that hasn't been invented yet? So I was having this thought the other day.
The Bango of beverages.
Well, sort of, because there must be a drink of some sort that sort of satisfies a mood where I'm not really in the mood for lager and I don't really want red wine. I'm not suggesting we make a stout, but something where people go into the pub. I think it needs to be something you can get a pint of as well, because I think the pint options are slightly limited.
Could you combine maybe the two, like a stout and a lager or something like? When they did the
interesting,
when they had the lion and the tiger, and they bred a lager.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like if you had a Guinness and a lager of some sort, you could have a...
The trouble is, you put lager and Guinness together, you get a lout.
A
lager and a stout is a lout.
You're joking me. We've just invented the lout on the podcast.
And then what you need, when you go to the pub, and sometimes your decision on which beverage to choose is entirely based on if it comes in a fancy glass, the sort of glass basically that you nick to take home.
Well, we know what glass that should be. It should be a glass with two handles. It should look like a cup.
If you're going to the bar and asking for 3 pints of lout. It sends a certain sort of message, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is with the lout is obviously it's the spin on it, isn't it? So you could actually call it like a lout.
Lout, like it's a Belgian beer.
Like a lahoot, a loot, and pronounce it. Put a little hyphen on it.
Yeah,
it's
maybe,
not lout.
Maybe
it's
one of the little hats.
Loot. Loot.
The little hats above the O.
Belgian craft lager or something.
How strong is our lout? Lahoot. Is it like 6%?
Lout.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're talking about brewing a whole new drink. I'm saying when people go into the pubs, can you ask for a half a Guinness and half a lager, whack them together, and you've got the laout?
That's a homemade lout, I think.
But I want a drink that people can go to the bar and sort of enjoy and think of the podcast. This is why this question is genius, because wouldn't it be awesome for people to go to the pubs and order it and then someone see them ordering it and know it's from the podcast? That's why it's got to be unique.
Do you mix it yourself?
Yeah.
Like, do you get served half in a pint glass and then the other in a half, or are you getting 2 halves and then mixing them yourself?
No, listen, it's not that. If you mix them yourself, that's the lout.
Yeah.
You need the bar.
Yeah,
the barman
they need to be trained
in loads.
I don't think at this point it doesn't matter if it tastes disgusting or not. We just want a distinctive drink for the podcast. And until we've thought of anything better, I think get on the laouts.
Let's get on the loads.
Is it a session beverage,
mate? If I could have one now, I would.
What's a lout? What's a lout hangover like? Do we think?
Yeah, it's not pretty. I feel like when you go to the toilet after lager, it flies out like a Porsche. And I feel like with a Guinness, it all slows everything down.
Sticky. So this might be the ideal.
Might be ideal.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Right, last episode, Tom managed to recommend a really good podcast that was finished with a flourish. What about this one, Tom?
Yeah, I'm delighted to say, Crouchy, that this end of pod advert is dedicated to our friends at Tailenders. So that's Jimmy Anderson, England's greatest bowler, Greg James, Felix White, talk about cricket, general nonsense, and they've made a move into poetry.
Do you know what I reckon? I reckon that they use microphones for their podcast that work. So it's already got a one-up on ours, isn't it?
I think what we're trying to say is we've heard Tailenders is good. We're aware of Tailenders, but we can't assure you that. We can't promise on Tom's life here that it is actually a good podcast.
So that is Tailenders, available to download now on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.